Hey H&K fans, James here with Teufelshund Tactical. Putting together a short video here for my friend Michael. He had posted up mag reload videos for the MP5 series the other day and had been getting a lot of responses from individuals who had differing opinions on the technique they use for their specific reloads. And specifically, a lot of questions from guys who are saying, hey, I don't lock my bolt back to the rear when I do a reload on my MP5. I do it like an AK, you know, mag out, mag back in, rack the bolt, and that's how it works for me. And obviously there's lots of different ways you can do reloads, but I wanted to take some time here to put this video out just to explain the why behind mag reloads for the MP5 series. And really, if you understand the why, the reasons behind the way the system works, then you'll have a more informed decision on which technique you choose to use. And there really is a good series of reasons why you wouldn't want to reload with the bolt forward. Okay, the first reason, well, the MP5 series and all of the roller delayed blowback line of weapons from H&K, they predate the industry standard of a bolt hold open device that's going to lock the bolt back to the rear when you have the last round fired out of the magazine, which means obviously the bolt's going to go forward when you fire that last round. You're not going to know it's emptying unless you count it to 30 or you get a click instead of a bang. Okay, because of that, the weapons were actually designed from a manual of arms standpoint of reloading that you would reload with the bolt back to the rear. You would pull the bolt back to the rear first before you would insert the new magazine. Okay, part of that reasoning, okay, on the bottom of your bolt is this part that sticks down lower than the rest. It's called the feed pawl. Okay, and the feed pawl, as the bolt goes forward, it fits in between the two feed lips of your magazine, strips off the top round of that magazine, feeds it up into the chamber, all that good stuff. Don't want to dumb it down too much. Most of you guys already understand that, but that feed pawl sticks down lower than the rest of the bolt, okay? Which means that if I have a fully loaded 30-round magazine and I'm trying to insert it up into the magazine well, that top round is pressing up against the bottom of that feed pawl, and there has to be some give, okay? Where the magazine actually seats and locks into place is higher up than it's allowing to go unless you're putting serious pressure on there, and that means you have to have spring travel left in your magazine in order to seat it there, okay? So what that tells you is if I'm trying to load the bolt or load the weapon with the bolt forward and I've got a fully loaded 30-round magazine, there's probably not going to be a lot of travel left in that spring, and the only way I'm going to be able to get it in there is to really jam it in, okay? And then what I see with that is most often the attempt is not on the first attempt. It may take the second, the third attempt of really slapping that thing, or they get it started and they come back in and slap it from the bottom like guys would with an M16 or AR-15. That's the issue, okay? Second issue to get around that is you'll have guys that will download their magazines. So they'll take 1 or 2 or 3 rounds out in order so it'll seat like that. And now you've got an issue of, as you're loading your magazines, do I load to 30 and then take 2 rounds out, or do I go count 27? Oh shit, I lost count. What happens if I need a magazine from a buddy? Hey, you know, I'm out of ammo. Here, throwing you a mag. Hey, wait, does this have 28 or 30 rounds in it? I'm not gonna yell all that back and forth in the middle of a gunfight. Just load your mags to 30, you won't have that problem. The next issue I'll have when people will tell me that they can do that every single time. They don't have problems with it. Usually, it's when I'm teaching training course and I've got law enforcement guys there. And they'll say, yeah, I just slap it in every single time. And I'll say, hey, how long have you had those weapons? Oh, they've been in service with our department for 20, 30, 40 years, whatever that is. Say, okay, come here, let me see those mags. And I look at the date code on the mags, and the mags are 20, 30, 40 years old as well. So what they have are magazines that are old and worn out. And I'll say, okay, when's the last time you guys changed your magazine springs? And they'll look at me with a strange face and say, I've never done it. I'm not sure our armory's ever done it. Or I've talked to the armorers and I'll ask them, hey, you got spare mag springs in your toolkit back at the police armory? And they're like, no, we don't have any parts for these guns at all. So now I've got guys who are using very worn out mags, mag springs specifically, and are able to get it to seat the first time with the bolt forward, but now they're doing that while obviously having a probability that you're now going to have a feeding related issue, usually on the last round, the second last round, where the magazine spring is fully extended, but it's not strong enough anymore because it's 20, 30, 40 years old and worn out. So why would I want to try and gain a probability of getting the magazine to seat while also risking the fact that I'm going to have a feeding related issue from that same magazine? Same guys, same type of magazines. Guys who said they can get it seated first time with the bolt forward. I'll take a look at the magazines and they'll either be out of spec, some aftermarket type, or they're an HK brand, and again, they're old, and these guys, through years and years of training of dropping the mags on the hard concrete, the rocks, the hard ground, those feed lips are damaged. They're either bent in, bent out, they're cracked, they're chipped, so the tolerances are different. They're allowed to get the magazine in higher, and now that also can relate to feeding related issues. If the magazine feed lips aren't set correctly, now you're gonna have a nosing up of that top round because it's not supported, feeding related issue. So I may be able to get the mag to seat, but now I've created a feeding related issue that's created a malfunction I've got to clear. So I don't want to deal with that anymore. So those are the major issues that I'll see with trying to reload with that. Now, what I try and do when I teach courses is to provide a TTP, a tactic, technique, and procedure that gives you certainty instead of probability. Meaning, especially in a reload situation, if I'm in a lethal gunfight and my weapon is empty and I have to reload it to continue the fight and win the day there and save my own life, I want to make sure that my technique for reloading is going to give me the certainty of loading on the first time every time, instead of the probability that maybe 3 out of 5 attempts I do, I'm going to get it the first time every time. And the only way to do that is to make sure that I lock the bolt back to the rear first and then insert the mag. And the last point I'll talk about, and this is a great example because I've got one in the shop here this week for service, is again from the long, prolonged process of slamming your magazine into your bolt when it's forward over and over again. And that can be damage to your actual weapon. Had a customer send me an HK93 this week that he's had since the 90s. And he said, hey, I shoot this thing all the time. I love this gun. Taking it apart to do my post-range maintenance on it, and I noticed I had a crack in the bottom of my bolt. I was like, that's incredible. I never would have thought that. And so I'm talking to him over the phone and said, okay, send it into me, take a look at it. And I expected that it was going to be on the bolt face. Obviously, that's where all the force is taking place against the chamber face. But instead, I have a crack that goes right through the feed pawl and then down through the side of the actual bolt itself. And so, never seen anything like that. Talking to him again over the phone, and I find out, hey, how do you load your weapon? Do you do bolt back the rear, or do you bolt forward? He says, oh yeah, I've always just, bolt forward, slap that mag in, then I hit it really hard on the base to make sure it's seated. And then I rack the charging handle. Well, he's been doing that since the 90s. He shoots this gun a lot, and all that repetitive slamming of his metal magazines into the actual feed pawl has caused a crack that's gone all the way through the bolt. Now he's had to replace one. Obviously not an ideal situation. These things are really hard to source these days because they don't make the HK93 anymore. And expensive when you do, but just another example of the why behind locking the bolt back to the rear instead of trying to load with the bolt forward. Hope that helps, guys. As always, if you're in need of H&K service and support or you need training opportunities, give me a shout. That's what I'm here for. Thanks, guys. Take care.